What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be discussing and reviewing Demon Slayer Book 17 from the manga. For those of you unfamiliar with it, it is a very good show. The manga is even better to me, but to see it played out on TV is phenomenal. Um, and to catch you guys up, they just recently entered the Infinity Castle. So that's where we're at in the series, and this book is chronicling the first couple of fights inside. So this one says the Demon Slayer corpse plunges into the Infinity Castle to confront Muzan. Lady Shinobu engages in a fierce fight against Doma, the upper rank 2 demon that apparently killed her sister. So you guys, I'm excited to talk about this. I'm a big manga fan, and I'm happy to share this with you guys. This is a spoiler-filled review. So if you don't want to know what happens and you want to wait until it releases on the show, then I would kind of click through this. But if you're here for that, you want to know what happens, let's get into it. All right, I'm going to break this down chapter by chapter. I'll do a quick review of each chapter, talk about it, discuss it, and then we'll get this thing going. So, chapter 143, Lady Shinobu opens the story by revealing what happened to her family. They're attacked by demons. Her and her sister were saved by the stone Hashira, and that was their reason to get stronger, right? She is currently still battling Doma, and she actually had him pinned against the ceiling with her blade. She actually recalls when Tanjiro asked if she was angry, and she responded that she was always angry. Her parents, her older sister, and her Sugoku were all killed by demons. So that's one great way to infuriate somebody. Uh, she quickly realizes now she dealt in poison, and she quickly realizes that poison doesn't work on Doma, at least on the outside. So she breaks from him only to quickly be grabbed back up. He basically calls her a tryhard, but he admires her fighting spirit. He then tells her that he's going to eat her. Imagine that, man. Imagine, you're giving it your best, and a demon tells you that they're going to eat you, man. I can only imagine how she felt in that time. Uh, her understudy, Lady Kanao, rushes in just as Doma begins to eat her. Can you imagine seeing that? Like if you're like a friend of hers and her family, but as she's being eaten, she gives like a little hand signal to Kanao, like, "Yo, stop! I got this. Don't sacrifice yourself." Right? So Doma finishes absorbing Shinobu as Kanao watches in horror. All right, the next scene cuts to Zenitsu coming face to face with his former senior. All right, chapter 144. The chapter opens with Tanjiro following Giyu inside the Infinity Castle. They are trying to regroup with other corpse members. All right, a crow comes in and tells them the news of Shinobu, that she was eaten by Doma, that she was killed. And we find out that the crows are being sent out by the new 8-year-old master of house, Ubuyashiki. All right, he is guiding the corpse members with crows inside the castle. It's pretty good, man. That he's 8 years old and is the leader of the demon corps. So, but that family, like, you, during this time, you got to grow up fast. So, we find out Zenitsu's former friend became a demon, right? And found out he was originally supposed to be a co-successor with Zenitsu, and that's one thing that caused their master to kill himself, because he feel like he failed him, and that he was the reason that he became a demon. All right, Zenitsu ends up cutting him at the start of the fight, uh, and that kicks off their battle. All right, chapter 145. We found out the main motivation for Kaigaku, that is the dude that Zenitsu was fighting. His motivation for becoming a demon was because of uh, he wanted to get stronger. Like he felt that he failed, that he was failing, that, and he was pissed off that his master had named him a co-successor with Zenitsu, who he saw as like a weakling, right? So they begin to battle. Uh, and just for you guys, just so you can know, Kokushibu, he's like the number one, or yeah, I think he's the number one ranked demon. He's the one that turned Kaigaku into a demon. So they begin the battle, and Kaigaku unleashes 5 quick moves, and they all hit home. You know, they cut up Zenitsu pretty bad. And this was an interesting tidbit. Kaigaku was the kid who let the demon into Himajima's temple that attacked and killed everyone. You know, if you remember, the other kids had lied and said that he was sleeping or he had went out, but you know, he had like let the demon into the temple, and it, you know, wiped out his little coven. And that basically is what's happening in chapter 145. Chapter 146, Zenitsu successfully beheads Kaigaku, but he's used up all his strength and is falling to his death before he is saved by Yuichiro. All right. On the brink of death, Zenitsu dreams and he sees his mentor and apologizes to him for not getting along with Kaigaku. And clearly he had like a lot to say to him before he died, because he just starts like, yo, I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry for being weak. I'm sorry for not getting along with Kaigaku. And he got all that off his chest, and his master simply responded, I'm proud of you. You know, which had to mean a ton to him, because I felt like he was seeking some kind of confirmation from him. You know, you know, that's what a lot of people do. So uh, we find out that Yuichiro is the only demon made by Lady Tamayo. You know, so Muzan wasn't the only demon that could make people. Uh, we cut back into Tanjiro and Giyu, and Akaza drops in on them. You know, he drops in and says hello to Tanjiro. Uh, we cut to Lady Tamayo, and she's getting absorbed by Muzan's cocoon. And that ends chapter 146. All right, people, we're at chapter 147 now. Tenzin and Shinjiro, Rengoku, are acting as Kiriya's bodyguards. Kiriya is the last Ubuyashiki. He's the 8-year-old that is sending out all the ravens and stuff. Nezuko appears to be suffering from the effects of the medicine Tamayo gave her. This medicine was intended to make her human again. The rematch of the century kicks off. You know, it's Tanjiro versus Akaza, except this time Tanjiro has Giyu by him instead of Kyojuro Rengoku. The last time that we saw Akaza, he had barely survived his match with Rengoku. He ended up killing Rengoku, right? And Tanjiro, you know, in anger had like launched his sword at him from a distance. So he impaled him with his sword. That's how he lost his first sword, I think. Tanjiro then slices his arm off when they first start fighting. And this gives Tanjiro the confidence that he needs for this fight, because after that, Tanjiro's like, okay, I can get this guy. Like, I got a lick on him. I cut his arm off. I can cut his head off. So that gives him the extra motivation to continue fighting, right? Uh, Giyu recalls Tanjiro being a weakling when he first met him, you know, because if you guys go back all the way back to the very first episode, Nezuko, his family was eaten by the demon Muzan, and Nezuko was like bleeding out, and Giyu was going to finish the job, but Tanjiro like begged him like, "Hey, this is my sister. I'm going to protect her. I'm going to do what I can." And he saw the good in that, and he decided to allow Nezuko to live. So, but now Giyu sees that Tanjiro has become super strong, right? And you know, he's comparing him to his strength to a Hashira's, right? Uh, Akaza also lost his strength. You know, he's like, hey man, you were a weakling now, then, but now you're like top notch. So I'm excited to fight you, and you know, we'll see who comes out on top of this battle. That ends chapter 147. All right, chapter 148. Giyu inserts himself into the fight with Akaza. Right, guys, I cannot wait to see this fight animated, and the reason for that, like, man, just the moves that they're unleashing on each other. Like, Giyu is dropping tons of uh, water breathing techniques, Akaza doing his destructive death. Man, I cannot wait to see this play out on the TV. Man, it's gonna be epic. Uh, but this is the first time that we get to see Giyu cut loose. Right, he's like going all out. Akaza gloats about killing Rengoku, and this infuriates Tanjiro. Right, the strong protect the weak. You know, that's what Tanjiro said. He picked that up from Kyojuro Rengoku and just his experiences traversing through the world. You know, everything he's learned. You know, the strong protect the weak, and then the weak get strong so they can, you know, protect the weak. And it's like a continuous cycle. So that was the gist of chapter 148. All right, in chapter 149, the fight continues. Tanjiro's words remind Akaza of his former master, and this infuriates him. Right, he unleashes a flurry of attacks. All right, none of Tanjiro does a really good job of avoiding them, but his attacks are like so strong that like it ends up like making them like spit out blood. And you know, like being human, it's like an unfair fight from the get go because you know he's a demon, he's a human, he's immortal and all that, and he can instantly regenerate. So it's an unfair fight. So if he was to get his hands on him, it's, you know, a wrap. Uh, but yeah, so we get to Sindro sending a letter to Tanjiro about what the Sunbreeder said to the Flame Hashra at that time, right? When he had after his fight about with Muzan. Unfortunately, the letter did not arrive prior to the fight with Akaza, so Tanjiro's got to survive in order to, you know, find out what the details of this conversation. Akaza catches Tanjiro's sword in his hand and is about to break it when Giyu returns and slices off both of Akaza's hands. Uh, Giyu was sent flying by an attack from Kaze. He like went through walls, multiple walls, and he, you know, shows up at the last minute to save the sword and save Tanjiro because your boy had it collapsed like this. And he was about to break Tanjiro's sword until his hands were cut off. You know, and Tanjiro had like headbutted him and gave him a super kick, but you know he was like determined. I'm not letting this thing go until I break it, and if I break your sword, I break you and your spirit. You know, and that, you know, could set a ton of other stuff off. So get the wheels turning a little bit. So yeah, that ends chapter 149. All right, chapter 150, Giyu's survival instincts have kicked in, you know, as he realized he's up against an opponent that can take him down at any moment. Right, his mark has manifested. Right, he can see into the transparent world. You know, all his fighting senses are heightened. You know, he's stronger, faster, and you know that's what happens when your back is against the wall. Right. Uh, Tanjiro realizes Akaza can sense fighting spirit, you know, and Tanjiro does a good job here. You know, he's staying calm in the midst of a huge fight, you know, and he's like analyzing his opponent, and this gives him a leg up. You know, this goes to show us that Tanjiro has grown in the sense of uh, being a top fighter. Uh, But yeah, Tanjiro reflects on an earlier convo with Inosuke when he says he can feel a tingle, you know, at the spot where his opponent is aiming, right? But the catch with that is they have to aim with like malicious intent. Like if they're just doing it in a playful manner, then you know, it won't like set it off. But you know, if they're aiming at that spot with intent to like maim or destroy, then he senses it. All right, and that's what happens in chapter 150. All right, the last chapter, chapter 151. Right, Tanjiro reflects on an earlier convo with his dad about proper breathing and control. His dad tells him that he can see the transparent world when he's able to control the opening and closing of the blood vessels in his body. Right, so there's a bear that had on the mountain next mountain over that had killed and eaten like 6 people. So his dad had set up like a trap with bells, and the bear was like right there at the bells. He woke Tanjiro up in the middle of the night and was like, "Hey Tanjiro, let's go. Come with me." And so they get out there and see the bears right there. Uh, and his dad was like, "Hey man, like I'm not like a mean guy or anything like that, but anybody is threatening my family, like I must destroy you." So he ends up taking down the bear. And at the end of this chapter, Tanjiro finally looks into the transparent world. So his power is locked here. That was an important part of. This is going to be an important part of him in his fight with Muzan later. So, you guys, this was a very pivotal book. The big thing that happened was Lady Shinobu was eaten by Doma. That's going to cause a ripple effect, I'm sure. She's the first Hashira to go down inside the castle. I'm sure there's going to be others to go down inside as well. So, you guys, appreciate you watching. And again, this is Demon Slayer Book 17. So guys, check it out. Uh, and I'll be posting these pretty frequently, man. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you guys. Catch you on the next one. Peace.